Welcome to the Friendlyjordies podcast. Unfortunately, no Jimmy. And that
Jimmy
is
free.
because
The Rona.
the Rona.
The young man.
Is that
sick.
still a thing?
Yeah, I know. Bloody Gary
He is
Baxter.
actually really, really sick.
Apparently he is. Usually calls me. Little phone calls. But he's instead he texts me and I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Because you lot gave it to him too. He went
Yeah,
to the
he did.
test show in Sydney and he came back sick.
Came back sick because of you guys. So specifically the people on YouTube. That's why he's sick. By the way, people, they love that you're back on YouTube. They're like, finally, it sucks so hard with, the nerds. They're
I think
like,
it's just they didn't like the vibe of two people. Because
No, they like
I
you.
was
Take
dead
it.
last week. I was
no, they like
malaria ridden.
Dude, they apparently like, content, aka you bringing actual content and speaking on that and being knowledgeable and talking about politics and whatnot and global affairs. They don't like me just waffling on. So screw you, YouTube, but whatever.
Okay, so let's quickly do some Aussie segments. Number one, are you afraid of Cyclone Alfred?
I mean, isn't it just remaining in
I think it's literally hitting my parents' house.
really?
Wait, in North Brisbane suburbs, right?
Jesus Christ.
But I don't
That's
know
scary.
how.
That's scary.
But they're saying it's going to be
Not Sydney.
epic.
Really?
Like it's going to be really,
Dude,
really
you know what's
bad.
crazy? I saw Ophelia today. You know Ophelia?
Yeah.
She was just visiting Sydney, so I got a coffee, and she showed me a photo of her local Woolworths. There's not one item of food. Like people have fear. What's that shit called? Like stocking, like fear.
Yeah, and
stock.
toilet paper. Can someone explain to me the toilet paper obsession?
I don't know.
I would consider food to be like,
An essential.
essential and like long-lasting food. That would really, I would imagine.
I know.
That's why
Spam
you
and
can
shit.
never really game the stock market too.
I know.
Because you think, oh, everyone's gonna go for Apple. No, people are going for the Bitcoin that looks like a dog.
It's
How? I don't know how that's happened.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And yeah, they've like crisis stocking. And dude, but I'm talking like not like, there's a single onion spinning and someone just goes, yoink, like nothing. Not a single thing in the shelves. So it's like, yeah, man, I guess I don't know. It's happening.
Which is weird because like literally the world stopped a few years ago and we figured out, still things come through.
Exactly. And a cyclone, it's all over.
Yeah, dude. Like cyclone's gonna last 2 days max.
Do you reckon there'll be a lot of property damage? It's like a big thing.
Yeah, dude. I hope the cyclone, sometimes just before the cyclone hits the shore, it just kind of like deviates. So if that doesn't happen, then I think this is gonna be a very, very intense cyclone.
Yeah, right. Hectic.
I get what's the difference between a cyclone and a typhoon?
I don't know. I feel like a typhoon's more chill.
No, to me it sounds more violent.
Typhoon seems more like there's like
It's Asian too.
this is what that's what I mean. Like a cyclone seems like a cyclone. A typhoon seems like a cyclone, but there's maybe like margaritas flying around in there.
Yeah, and some Asian guy. "Wah!"
Like there's just like if you went you could get some like.
I think the only reason why
margarita.
I connotate typhoon with Asian people is that my guide in Thailand was called Mr. Typhoon.
That's a
Don't
good
know if
reason.
it was real name or not, but like we had to refer. And then when you ask him like, "Oh, Mr. Typhoon, why?" and he would always go like this. He would be like, "Whoo." Okay.
What an absolute king.
Yeah, never wanted to probe him.
Ultimate tour guide. That's incredible.
Okay, yeah. So look, we don't know what's happening with the typhoon, the cyclone, the cyclone.
I don't know. I'm googling it.
Tell us if it's already affected you in some parts. If it hasn't,
Yeah.
cyclone is South Pacific. Typhoon and hurricane are the same thing.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh.
Typhoon is Asian. Oh, there you go.
So you
Okay.
actually nailed it.
I mean, I meant it in a very, very racist sense, but I guess.
Of course. We're in Australia.
Stop panic buying unless it's Posca.
Stop panic buying unless it's Posca. Dude, Posca Hydrate is where it's at, dude.
All right. Okay. Second segment of the Australian one was I think they've announced the elections, dude.
Oh, really?
April 12th are supposed to be the elections.
That's really soon.
I don't think that's long
Time-
enough for Apple to do this recovery.
Time to vote Liberal. No,
I'm actually going to check what the odds are on the Australian election to see. Usually bookies are good with this stuff.
I'm just looking at the Friendlyjordies official website now. Past live shows. A Life, Malcolm Turnbull. Did he film these?
Yeah, I think so.
Chin Up Stooge. Why John Howard really sucked. Which one's Chin Up Stooge? Was that obviously
That was the first one he ever did.
Are you serious?
Election betting.
I want to far out. Look at him go. There's a website. Too hot for YouTube, you reckon?
Oh, I can't.
Hey, you know I teed up a $5,000 donation from someone in
Really?
in Mackay. There's a man who I think he had like $50 million or something.
Why did he give you $5,000?
Not me. He said I want to donate 5,000 to Geordies, and I was like, yes, sweet.
And did he do it?
He did it, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, look, I can't find the election odds on Sportsbet, but I have a feeling that Labour are not the favorites.
Shit, I really hope they win.
Can someone
man.
find out in chat and let us know?
What are the odds?
Got Labour majority at $15. What are the odds?
What are the all
I'll find it in a second.
ordinaries?
51.49 Albo's way, according to Captain Bucket. Okay. Well, that's something.
Okay. Wait, what is it?
51.49. So
that's tight.
50
That's very tight.
It's way too tight. It's so unfortunate that this is like literally there's been only one term. Usually you get this close after the second term.
Really? Yeah, but welcome to Australia, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and look, while we're at it, considering Jordan isn't here, Albo's been too,
Well, we can say what we want now. He's not here. I fully...
too Taylor Swifty and less just, working hard.
But I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't... It's not like I lie when Jordan's here. I legitimately do still like Albo a lot. I do. I'm
also joking. I like Albo as well.
But I'm not as disappointed with him as you are, I feel like.
I'm not disappointed in him, dude. Like,
You're not?
no, I don't think he can do anything differently, really. As
Yeah.
far because if everyone hates him because of the economy, I really don't think he can do much. Like, what can he pull out of the hat?
There's not much he can do.
And also, Trump's fucked it up too.
Yeah.
Like the markets, the global markets are now tanking. U.S. stock market is not doing so well. Like, what's
Right.
Albo gonna do?
Exactly. I think that also I've realized there is this proclivity for, it seems to be whatever is presented in the media seems to be the opposite of what's happening. And I think a lot of what Labor's doing, God, I'm sitting in Jordan's
you're in a
sheet. I just
spot.
became Jordan. But I feel like I do honestly believe that I feel like a lot of, and I'm not saying everything they do is perfect at all, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not, but I am saying that I think that a lot of what they do, a lot of quiet things done behind the scenes by old men or women with grey hair just getting things done. I think they've done well with that, and I think that it probably doesn't get the media coverage it needs because it's not sexy or whatever. But I think that's important. So I think all in all, it's still just. I still believe that it's still the best party to vote for, but I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, but you have felt the
What?
the pinch.
You know what I've felt? Shit's expensive at Woolies, but the thing is, that's not his fault, right? That's just inflation.
Yeah, it really isn't. I don't even know what Peter. I think the one genuine criticism that I have, and I have been making this criticism for the last 10 years now, and I don't think that Albo was particularly bad at it, but both governments have been really shit at. It's our economy is so one-dimensional now that we are prone to massive collapses.
I agree.
All of our economy is geared towards the
Exactly.
mining sector.
I watched a video about this, actually. It was like one of those annoying videos. It's like, hi, and welcome to World Economics. We're going to, today we dive into Sydney, Australia, with the annoying, shitty graphics. And I watched it, and like, they were just saying, you know, we're like very lucky because we have these resources, but our economy is based on literally digging shit out of the ground and a like false housing economy, and that's it. That's all there is. That's all there is. It's speculation, and like that's it. And it's like it's so undiversified. We don't make anything. We don't do shit. And he's saying like if one little thing goes wrong, we're screwed. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
I think
dude.
we should diversify and actually invest in technology and green energy and invest in ourselves.
Well, there's a lot of talk about that, and and to be fair, the government has introduced some policies and given some subsidies in areas where it's supposed to, encourage green manufacturing or high-end manufacturing.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like we should have been doing that 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And now the entire global economy is on we missed the extreme China boom. We just kept selling them coal when they were growing at 12%.
Yeah.
And we never used any money that came from that boom to do some of this stuff that we're doing now.
Why don't we tax these companies like oil and gas, even like BP, all these companies, Shell, whatever, appropriately for what they're doing? Because I know everyone compares it, but when you see the tax bracket in like Norway, I know that's extreme. They're like set for life. They're like, we have too much money, and it's like, why? Like I think did Australia do it because they were like, oh, we're keeping competitive. Now they'll all come to us, but it's like, dude, they'll come anyway. It's like so much shit in the ground.
Yeah, but we don't know exactly if all of that. This is a bit of a gamble because we know that there's stuff in the ground. But like a lot of the stuff that we were already exporting is not required as much anymore. Like China isn't building buildings at the same rate, so there's less requirement for iron ore.
Yeah.
The people are producing more energy from other stuff, so there's less requirement for coal. The idea is that we have, all of these other treasures which we're going to need. And it's like, yeah, but what if some other country is, closer to the market and can supply it for slightly less?
Yeah.
All of this is because some idiot economist told the Australian government that we have a comparative advantage in just pulling out raw materials and shipping it exactly the way we found it.
Yeah.
Like we're not, adding value to it.
Yeah.
We're just working on economies of scale and just taking out coal and sending it overseas.
Yeah.
And we're the best at it in the sense that we mine it in the most cost-effective manner. And that's supposed to be our comparative advantage and nothing else.
It's not enough.
It's not enough, dude.
It's not enough. And it's also like, it's just not like, if you look at it, I feel like if you look at us, you look at countries as people, because countries are just amalgamated, it's a household, except blown out of proportion or whatever. Like, okay, what is Australia? It's like, okay, we're not investing, we're not learning any new skills, we're not investing in like our youth or our future. We're literally just like addicted to like this one form of income. Oh, and pokies, apparently. They were saying we're the biggest gambling economy in the world. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
It's a huge moneymaker. It's like another Ponzi scheme. And so again, we invest in disorders. That's like a problem. Like it's something that is like a human like faculty, like something that is not like something that is like a hindrance to a human being. That's a huge investment. And then mining and housing. It's basically as a country where we're kind of like a gambling addict riddled society. That is, it's dude, the amount that people spend on gambling, because it's a cultural thing.
Sometimes it shocks me how we're a developed first world country.
Exactly. We really
are.
Have
no aside from like we've trendy cafes.
Yeah, that's
there's
it.
nothing about this country that should say first world.
No, we are like an old English colony of just sort of like, I'm going to spend me rum dole on the pokies, I will. Oh, I'm up, I am. Oh, I've lost it all. I was close to being up
Why
there.
is
wasn't
Australia a first world country? Oh, because shitty regional towns properties are also $700,000.
Which is just a Ponzi scheme. We talked about it, me and Jordan, last week on the Up Late, actually, when you left. We just talked about housing and John Howard and how he how he screwed.
Imagine now, I know people,
country,
people
really.
always talk about but imagine if this incredible Ponzi scheme, this house of cards,
Fell?
if it fell.
We're screwed. It would be like...
It's going to be the US 2008 times 5.
Yep.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah. And it was a really dumb idea, I think, because I talked to Jordan about it and I said, well, what would John Howard say about it? And he said that he would say, well, I brought every pensioner in this... I allowed every pensioner in this country to retire. I gave him an asset and I alleviated the pension problem. It's like, okay, but what about millennials and anyone born, I don't know, like after the year 1995? And then he would say that Howard would be like, well, you should have just got in on the Ponzi scheme. Everyone has to get in. And then it's like, well, what if I can't afford it? It's like, well, then move to Dubbo. That's it. And that's how he sees it.
At the end of the day,
That's it.
The
Because
solution is move to Dubbo.
Because he hated unions and he wanted to crush superannuation, which he did. So he sees it as he's like, I've crushed unions, my enemy. I've created this alternative income source, but it's so unsustainable. It's like he justifies it, but it's like, dude, how can you justify me or you now being like, and we're old, we should have been smarter and gotten in earlier, but I'm a dum-dum. How would he justify, if now him justify being like, yeah, you can buy a house in Sydney, $3 million for a middle of the road house? And it's like, how the hell do you justify it? How on earth can anyone justify that? Didn't you think 20 years in advance? Wages go like this, housing goes like this. How the hell can you justify it? And I secretly think that Howard even now is like, okay, this is too far.
Well, I mean, look, I was, I'm trying to understand how real estate investment works. So I started looking at a bit of literature. Yeah. And the one thing I realized, which again shocked me even further, was one of the things that, real estate investors talk about is what's the maximum borrowing power of a particular suburb so that you know how much people would be willing to pay for a house in that area.
It's an average.
Dude, all of Australia is maxed out?
I bet.
In fact, sorry. Most of Australia is maxed out. Sydney, most people living in any given suburb cannot afford that suburb.
100%. Do you know where I live?
Yeah,
it's a dump, but the houses literally it's unimaginable how expensive it is. And it's the thing that freaks me out is these houses were built for basically prisoners. They're Welsh coal mining cottages. They're little Victorian slabs. They're prison cells, basically. They're pretty. They're not prison cells. They're pretty. They were won in meat raffles. They were given to them. They're like, yeah, just live here. You're locked in like sardines. And then you can shuffle down to the brickworks, and then you shuffle back into your brick house, and shuffle back out to the brickworks and make bricks, and shuffle,
and then die.
And their lives weren't great. I'm not saying it should have remained free, basically, but the fact that these houses are going for $2-3 million, it's dude, these houses are not worth that objectively. They're not. They're structurally. What's the word I'm looking for? Compromised. There's not a lot of room. It's crazy.
Well, I guess you're paying for the land.
Yes, the land, but it's the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. It's the land's not that great. Australia is a great country, but I'd rather buy land in many other places. It's not it depends what you're looking for, but it's not justified, the pricing.
Well, I just wonder,
and you said, no one can afford it.
That's the thing. I'm just wondering, when the price keeps going up, who's gonna buy them? I know there's a few rich people.
Yeah, Chinese and American and Canadian investors. I think.
Dude, I think even they're running away from Australia.
So no one's gonna be able to buy them.
But how it keeps its property value is beyond me.
Because
I'm struggling to understand.
It's a bubble. It's a bubble. But I just don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. Seriously.
Well, I think maybe the renter ratio is just gonna double. I think like what's the renter ratio now? Maybe it's like 40% of the people rent, whereas 60% of the people own.
Right.
Maybe it's 70-30. I think you're gonna eventually end up at 80-20, where 80% of the people are going to.
What if you fall in that? What if you own a place and rent somewhere else? Where do you fall?
Well, technically, you fall into home ownership.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you live, but it still also increases, like assuming that you're renting out as well. But either way, I think like most people are just going to become renters.
Yeah,
Which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I know that in Europe that's really big.
It's big in Europe, but renting in Europe, apart from the big hubs, is cheap still. Like Berlin's getting more, it's the same thing here. Like places get more expensive. London's expensive. London's like Sydney or more. Berlin, but the thing is, like Berlin, was like a cheap city. Now it's getting more expensive. But these things change. Like if you want to live in like not a capital city in Europe, it's cheap, dude.
Yeah, because also their numbers are also going down, right?
Yeah,
the overall population.
That's true.
Because have you heard about those Italian schemes where they pay you
$1 or whatever?
to? Which is not really true.
No, there's always a catch.
The catch is that you still have to pay for all of this other shit, which might be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. Yeah.
But you can do
salami tax.
The salami tax.
Where's the gabagool, eh?
Would you do it?
Look,
if you had $1 to spare.
Would you spare $1, my brother? Look, I'm still on the Japan house train. You can buy a house in Japan for like.
Yeah, but don't you think in the long term it'd be easier to live in Italy than it would be to live in Japan?
Yeah, it would. I don't understand.
Because at some point you're gonna bend down and your back's gonna hurt, and you're like, I need to go back to Europe.
That's true. I don't understand how they can do that in Italy, because that must be a very niche thing. Because and
it's also in regional areas.
There's nothing happening.
They're not going to give you prime fucking Naples property.
And the thing is, if you live in regional, I mean, I've been to a lot of parts of Europe, especially in Spain when I was there, where there's a town is like a shop and a few houses. It's like nothing. And if you are there, it's like, okay,
what do you do?
Well, it's not just what you do. It's like, you need to be able to get your income from outside of that town, like online or something.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're happy making your own fun, then you can live there. But it's like you need to have a wife or a friend. It's it's not easy. You have to be able to speak Italian. There's things, but I don't know, man. Italy,
even if you know the word fugazi, you still need to know the rest of it. Just go.
I can count to 10 in Italian.
Well, that means you can buy 10 houses in Italy.
10 prego. I don't know, man. My dad has a house in Croatia that my granddad built. We didn't, this is my poor ass grandparents bought land in a long time ago and built a house. And my dad's very lucky. And but dude, that shit has gone up in everything. Europe's not cheap anymore. That shit's expensive.
What about Croatia? Are you still a citizen there?
No, I'm not. I don't have a passport. It's typical me. I started the process of applying for a passport, and it was like, "Hello, here is a tiny hurdle," and I just gave up.
Dude, but you should. Some chick told me.
I want to.
Some chick once told me that she had a Dutch passport.
Yeah.
Because, whatever, she had some connection. So one time she was going overseas to Thailand or something.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know what? I'm going to take my Dutch passport instead.
Yeah.
And so she takes it. She goes to fucking Thailand.
Yeah.
When she's coming back, they refuse boarding because they're like, you don't have an Australian visa.
Oh.
It's like, no, I'm Australian. And they're like, but you have a Dutch passport. Where's your Australian passport? It's like, I don't know, at home. They're like, you can't just go to Australia.
Of course, but then but they're right.
She's with her sister, and she's like, look, she has an Australian passport, and she's literally my sister.
Irrelevant.
And they're like, no.
Yeah. So what'd she do?
I think she asked someone to send it back, and then they had to get evidence of her citizenship.
Yeah, but she's an idiot. Idiot, no
Total
offense. It's like,
idiot,
dude,
yeah.
you can't just say you're from, like, what stops me going, hello, I'm from Pakistan? Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Well,
the
she was saying,
accent.
like, look at my accent. Where
Doesn't
could I-
count. That doesn't count. Dude, this is something I would do. Even I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I want to get my,
Croatian
I
passport.
want to get my passport, yeah, because, like,
Is it a big fuck around to do it?
you know.
Do you have to live there?
No, you don't have to live there. It's just like, you know, it's not easy. It's like, it's not easy. And Croatia is a somewhat, their bureaucracy doesn't exactly run smoothly. It's like a transitioning country. It's like, it's got,
I thought they were famous for their efficient bureaucracy.
definitely not.
The people of Croatia.
They're famous for, like,
Well-oiled machinery.
yeah, they're famous for well-oiled palms of hands. Yes, here you go, my friend. You know, it's,
This is olive oil.
yeah, it's like more like Italy, where it's like, you scratch my, you know, it's not like that for a passport, but like, it's like,
Do you know what their main economy? Do you know what their main income is?
Croatia.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I don't know. I just assume it'd be sardines.
It honestly could be sardines, or it could be like olive oil, or it could be alcohol. I honestly don't know.
Or all
I'm
three
googling
of
that.
them.
I'm googling. What do I write? What's Croatia's? What
Well,
do I
I
write?
can check for you. But anyways, we should probably move on to
Main export or main economic? What do I say?
well, main export.
No, that's not the question. It's economy thing.
Biggest GDP sector.
What's Croatia? Biggest GDP sector. Let's see. I hate how everything's AI now, by the way. It freaks me out. You know how Google uses AI? Croatia's largest GDP sector is services, which accounts for around 70% of the country's GDP. The tourism sector
Tourism.
is a key part of the service sector, contributing almost a quarter of the country's GDP. What is services?
But you know what's crazy? I don't think Croatia even is a massive tourist destination.
It is. It's massive.
In Europe or
Yeah,
just
in-
generally? You know, how, like, you know, there's a few cities that you think about and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Rome, Paris.
Yeah, true.
Even like Istanbul.
Zagreb's not a, yeah.
Yes, Zagreb. Like, most people wouldn't know what city to visit in Croatia.
No, you only do Croatia for the coast.
No, I know why one would do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But does one ever think of doing it?
I mean,
Is my question.
a lot of Aussies go.
No way.
It's huge for Aussies.
Croatian expats.
No! No, I swear. And also it says, the statistics show Croatia's gross domestic product in Croatia, agriculture is pretty big.
Yeah, sardines and tourism. Sorry, I missed tourist bit.
But 20% of the services sector contribute to, yeah, it's just I don't know, services.
All right, look, let's start with the Zelensky topic because I think some people are talking about it.
Yeah, it's tourism.
Already.
They mainly make money from tourism. But yeah, go
That's
on.
good. Look, I wish them the best.
What is Australia's main one? Mining.
Mining.
Yeah, yeah. I thought could have been tourism as well.
If you Google it, it'll probably be the same services or whatever, but it's basically mining. That's where we make most of our money from.
I'm doing the
It
Australia one.
used to be like iron ore, which was the largest export.
It's services as well.
Yeah, I know, I'm telling you, but it's like, you know what this servicing is?
What?
Accountants that work for mining companies.
And mining's
And like, you know, like
significant,
law
yeah.
firms that work for mining. Like, all of the money that Australia makes is just mining money recycled in other sectors.
Right.
And I guess housing.
Jesus, hectic.
Okay.
Sorry, Pete.
Okay, so
Yeah, hit me, my friend.
all right, Miss. So before we start talking about the Zelensky, you watched it, right?
Of course, I watched it.
Oh my god.
I watched it, and I was in.
So what was your reaction to it?
Dude, I was in horror. I was like, this is my take. I was like, this is like the most immature. I have the CNN perspective. It's like immature bullying tactics. This guy's first language isn't even English. Why is the media doing this? Showing this? Why are they doing it in front of the media? And also,
And then at the end, just being like, it's just low ball shots. Like, what about how could you don't have a suit?
yeah,
you don't
for
own a
fuck's
suit?
sake, the suit thing was.
You should show some
ridiculous.
respect and wear a suit.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
To which he calls it the perfect thing, which is a costume.
Yeah, well, I love that he said costume. And here's another point that I genuinely do. It's a very CNN point, but I really do think this. This makes America and I'm not like saying America's foreign policy has been perfect by any means, but like that kind of shit makes Americans and America more unsafe because it makes America look like this hawkish pariah, isolationist state where it's like we bully our allies and like we can't be trusted to. Like I think if you don't have soft power in the world in terms of aid and just having influence, if you're just isolating yourself, I'm all for like isolationism to like a little spice, a little salt and pepper isolationism. I'm up for that. But like I'm up for that. But if you're like doing that, really
why, Mace? It was Make America Great Again. What was good for them was good for everyone, including us.
Listen. I think that
the amount of fucking scrawny white boys that were saying like how amazing Trump is going to be for Australia and the world.
I think no, he was never going to be good for Australia. But he was never going to be good for Australia. But like, I think he potentially. I think that like his policy generally. I'm not saying it's like terribly internationally. It won't be terrible. But this is an example of something very terrible and something dumb. It's dumb and bad. It's dumb.
Okay,
that's what I think.
So I might have again an opinion about this. Dude,
I think this he's done. You know, I think even though it's very brutal, his border check. You know, on the border, he's doing well.
Well, yeah, and as Australian, you should be able to say it because we did exactly the same thing about 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, look. So the Zelensky stuff. The problem with that is.
You tell me now. Give me.
There's so many angles to look at it from. One angle is.
And don't censor yourself.
I'm not censoring. I'm telling you exactly how I feel about it.
Good.
First, there's one angle, which is that. Was it bullying? It kind of was. I mean, dude, you've got like a really large country.
It was bullying.
That's financing it.
You know who pissed me off the most?
Ooh, JD.
100%. That guy's an annoying prick.
Yeah,
I never liked him. He's such a whole show pony of a man. It's like, dude, you don't. He actually is just a politician. He's like, is good or bad? I think the minerals thing. I think it's bad. The minerals thing's pretty. Like, don't you think that's like seriously like that's some third world extortion? Like, give us your minerals and we'll help. It's like,
but like, what did Ukraine expect? This is the thing. Like a lot of
Trump
Westerners
or from America.
From America.
Biden would never have done that.
This isn't the first time that America's abandoned an ally.
No, but
every ally that the U.S. imperialist powers had during the Cold War.
No, but they wouldn't.
Right? Every ally that they had, whether it be like Indonesia, Suharto, they'd be Pakistan. All of them were told as soon as they lost their utility to the U.S., they were kicked on the ass. So it's not like a new thing that the U.S. has done. No, the only difference is that this time around, it's in Europe where U.S. is always assumed to be a key security player. But this has happened before.
But I'm surprised that they would out in the open say we want to extort your natural minerals.
Well, they don't. Maybe they didn't say it out in the open, but they've always done stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Also, why else would we be your partner? Like you've got to understand it from. So when Iran, I
think it's a bit sad.
Okay, let's forget Ukraine. When Iran had dedicated all of their oil to U.S., they were their biggest ally. They were the headquarters of CIA in Asia. Like the Shah of Iran and the U.S. had an incredible relationship.
Right.
And as soon as there was a new government that wanted to nationalize the oil and say that this isn't your dedicated oil, we're going to sell it to the highest bidder, all of a sudden they were the greatest enemies.
Yeah.
Like this has always been the case. So
True.
Trump is just saying it overtly, but it has always been the case.
Yeah. But actually, that's a good point. But it's kind of sad then that it's kind of like we're okay with this. Like sometimes when something's kind of buried under diplomacy, it's like it's not really happening. But when people are just being like calling, like seeing how the sausage is made, it's like, oh God, but this is just we're gonna normalize being like, you give us your minerals. It's just a bit. It's quite scary and it's a bit.
Yeah, it's bad, and like you literally see how big players exploit smaller players.
Yeah. I wonder.
No, Trump. There is also no doubt that Trump has been completely overtaken mentally by Putin.
Yeah. Well, he respects the strong man.
Well, it's not just that he respects the strong man. Trump also thinks that, Putin was his ally
Yeah.
against Biden. Like, it's insane,
That's
that
insane.
one US president would think that a foreign hostile leader is on their side.
What is it called? The KGB. KGB. It is very strange.
But the colossal issue that the US now faces is that they run a global empire, and now it's obvious that their president believes that anything that the previous president did
I know.
is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so he has to overturn every policy, which is not good for a stable country at all.
No.
So if I'm an American, this is not good. Like,
No.
I'm losing credibility. I'm also, like, forcing every other country on earth to make plan Bs.
Yes.
Because,
That's my point.
Yeah.
Europe's saying we can't rely on.
Well, Europe is saying that now. But, like, other countries have always known that America would just leave them.
Yeah. But powerful. But they're not powerful countries, right?
That's why Israel has, this incredible lobby. Why do they think they need it? Because they know that one day America is going to be like, you know what, fuck Israel. And then what happens?
Yeah.
We have to make it impossible.
You reckon that's why?
Yes, absolutely. The Israel lobby exists for this one reason, that if one day US politicians get the funny idea that, Israel's interests are not our interests, how do we make their lives a living hell?
Right.
So it's not just good. It's not just, Israel's like, with the partnership with Israel, you firstly get, like, the support of one of the strongest army in the area, right? That's one advantage. You also get, like, cutting edge technology, which you wouldn't get anyways. All of this stuff is normally how a country sells its alliance. But even Israel knows that this is not enough.
Right.
Because one day Americans could decide that we don't want all of this, we don't care about this. And then what happens? So we need to compromise every politician in the country to ensure that they dare not switch. Look what happened with Ukraine. Like, they know that this can happen.
It's really, so, yeah. I mean, I understand that Trump, maybe on paper, it's the best it can get for them, and maybe it will. Maybe him forcing the hand a bit has been like, look, I wasn't in before. Like, I want this to end. It's just going to get worse, and that's kind of true. So it's like maybe these concessions have to be made, and that's what it is. You could argue that he's more peacekeeping-y than Biden.
The thing is, at this point in the war, I would imagine that Putin doesn't necessarily want a peace settlement.
Right.
I think he wants this war to end how, wars like this end, which is that one party becomes so powerless that they give up, essentially. I think that there was a period where it was incentivized for both countries to reach a peaceful settlement. I think that time has passed. So if it does happen, it would be like, Trump essentially forcing it. And then who knows how fragile that ceasefire would be too. That's another thing. It's one thing to reach peace, and then it's another thing to be able to sustain that peace. I think even at this point, both countries want to keep this war going.
Really?
Because both of them have an idea of who's winning, and they both think that they might win. Well, Ukraine might not think that they will win, but they might think that, they'll be able to expel Russians from some part of their territory. Whereas I think if I'm Putin, I'd be thinking like, the longer this war continues, the better it is for Russia.
It's probably true.
So, I feel
so
like
sad.
this war is going to end with the last bullet being shot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. It's a strange thing. I mean, it's almost like geopolitical philosophy. It's like, do you rule with an iron fist? Is that the safest? That's fucking crazy. Do you think that, like, America being more chummy with Russia is better for world peace or worse? Because some people say, like, dude, Putin only respects aggression. You have to be hard on Russia. I don't know.
I don't think it is better. I think it's the natural position that both U.S. and Russia will be in a World War III scenario, because I think...
What? Mates?
Yeah.
But Russia is chummy with China. They were saying...
Yes, but they don't... Russia and China are chummy with each other out of necessity.
Right.
Because they've been isolated by the Western powers. But they're not a natural alliance.
No.
In fact, they share a hostile border. So
Mongolia?
yeah, that area.
Yeah.
But that area is actually a hostile border, which is why, there was, during communism, initially China and Soviet Union were best of friends.
Yeah.
But even in that best of friendship, there was constant fighting. And eventually there was the Sino-Soviet split.
Yeah.
And when the split happened, US started courting China.
Yes.
Because they wanted to isolate China and Russia.
Right.
The same thing is going to happen, but this time around, the bigger power that the US is facing against isn't Soviet Union, it's China.
Yeah.
And as a result, you will see at some point a Soviet-US tie-up.
You think there could be like an axis of like Russia and America coming together?
I think there will have to be for US to have any idea. For US to have like
Wait, are
any...
you saying like Trump's some like geopolitical genius then?
No, it's not Trump. The people that are behind Trump have felt this way the whole time. What they've said
Republicans really like Russia.
Yeah, because they feel that firstly, there's the practical reason is that they want to break off China and Russia.
Okay.
Because until China and Russia are together, like there's not a lot of success you can gain in Asia or Eurasian region. So you kind of need them to be against each other, which is not that difficult to do because they do have embedded issues. But I think the U.S. will. So there's a contingent in the U.S. which believes that this whole fight with Russia is completely against American interests. They think that U.S. and Russia, after the fall of the Soviet Union, and when Russia ceased to be an expansionary force, what they believe is not an expansionary force, then at this point you really need to have them on your side to counter China.
Yeah.
And
so it's kind of like a lesser evil rather than a friend.
Yeah, but like the lesser evil kind of thing existed always, even during Soviet Union. So when Hitler's rise happened, there was like, pamphlets about Soviet Union and the US being brothers for life.
Yeah, because they helped win the war.
Yeah, because obviously they were fighting on the same side.
Stalin, yeah.
Yeah. So you do have history of these two countries getting together. And this was during the peak Soviet era when,
crazy.
They were undermining each other in all spheres. So right now, there isn't even that big of an issue.
But can there be an ideological marriage between someone like a place like America and Russia? Because even though Trump has these tendencies, Russia is like an autocratic, jailing enemies, no free press, propaganda, run by a criminal.
Yeah, but like when has that stopped the US from making friends with someone? Like they've always been friends with dictatorship.
True.
And they've always supported, like, okay,
why are the Democrats then just being like, this is un-American?
Okay, if you look at like in this era, there are 3 countries that US in Trump era is still providing aid, and they've increased their aid, right?
Israel.
There's Israel, there's Egypt, and then there's Jordan.
I didn't know that.
These are 3 countries that, as soon as Trump came, said that I'm not going to touch their aid. All of these 3 countries are dictatorships.
Right.
All of these 3 countries have horrible human rights records. Mm-hmm. Like, America has had no problem courting and befriending dictatorship. In fact, they prefer it because they feel that the power is centralized. They don't have to worry about all the different stakeholders.
So would you argue that Trump, all he's done is brought the reality of how America's operated since the beginning of time to the forefront? That's really what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. The only difference is, and this is a big difference that Trump brought in that none of his other predecessors had, which is that Trump doesn't care about Europe. Americans have always been fixated with Europe.
Right.
They feel that they need to be the dominant force in Europe. There's reasons for it. They feel that if they move away from Europe, there's
cultural
there's a fear.
similarities.
There's a fear in the American psyche that if we withdraw from Europe, it's not that Russia's going to become big. It's that West Europe is going to become big and they're going to start becoming empires again. Because
Western Europe.
so
you mean Eastern
the
Europe.
first thing, Western Europe,
Oh, like England.
England, French, and German
But they're scared of them
becoming empires. In fact, the first thing that they did was the
I
first
mean,
thing
it's
that
possible. It is possible, right?
before dismantling the Soviet Union,
Yes.
Americans, after winning the Second World War, the first thing they did was destroy the empire ambitions of Western Europe. To the point where at one
Really?
point this is a war. This was the Suez Canal War. Nasser of Egypt decided to nationalize the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal was where most of the European traffic would go through. So Europeans cared a lot about it. Israel didn't like it as well. They didn't like Nasser because they felt that Nasser was going to take over Israel.
Right.
So Israel, along with Europeans, convinced Europe that we should attack Egypt. And that's the Suez Canal War, where European jets decided to attack Egypt
yeah.
to take over the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
And you know what Americans did?
What?
They did not help Europeans for two reasons. And Europeans lost that war against Egypt.
Shit.
And Americans refused to help them because they said, firstly, number one, don't get funny ideas about going to war without consulting us. We decide when we go to war.
Because they won
we
the
decide
war.
who we go to war with.
Because they won the war, really, or
Yeah,
Russia.
because they
Or
won the
Russia.
war. Russia and US basically were
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
big
yeah,
winners,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And the second thing was that they decided to let Europeans lose because they didn't want any remnants of a Western European empire having funny ideas.
That's great.
So
I never
since
knew
the
that.
Second World War, every American president has kept Europe on it. Like they've always wanted to keep be a dominant
check.
player in Europe's security policy. This is the first time that Trump has decided, I don't care.
Wait
I'm
a
out.
sec. Wait a sec. Isn't that good for Europe now?
I mean, look, here's the thing. Is it good for Europe? Time will tell. Because whenever Europe has gotten too independent and, because then the problem then becomes
I'm
like
hearing
they start
is-
fighting with each other.
Oh,
So if America is the key stakeholder, security stakeholder of Europe, Germans know that there's no reason to fight with French. There's no reason to fight with English because America holds the strategic position.
right.
But when America is gone, Germany's going to get funny ideas about ruling Europe. France has always believed that,
England?
Germany is the horse cart and we're the ones controlling the horse.
Yeah.
They all have funny ideas about how their country is supposed to be the top dogs of Europe.
Spain would just be sleeping.
So when there's a vacuum that the US leaves,
yeah.
they might start fighting with each other too.
Jesus Christ. So strange.
So that is
Well,
something that Trump has done, which is unique to him. But in terms of like abandoning their allies, this is an old custom of America.
Yeah.
And siding with dictators as well. It's like they've always preferred dictators.
So all I'm hearing you say is like Trump is like being honest about policy and it's not that bad.
I mean, it's bad for, European stability for sure. We don't know what comes next.
Yeah, but
right
if
now
Europe-
everyone's lovey-dovey,
Yeah, but
Keir
if-
Starmer and
Yeah,
Macron.
but
and-
if Europe needs some daddy looking after them, then they deserve to go to turmoil. It's like you should be able to take care of yourselves. You don't need America there,
well, every time they've tried to take care of themselves, they've fought massive wars.
like the Nazis and shit.
Yeah. Well, even before the Nazis.
Yeah.
Like they all want to be top dogs.
So the philosophical question is: should America be the whipping boy of the world, and does that keep everyone safe, or if there's less of that, is that more dangerous? It's like such a hard question.
Well, it's definitely, more dangerous when it's a multipolar world. Like you're more likely to have wars
Right,
because there's
yeah.
realms of influence and there's big players in those influences. And when those influences converge, there might be a fight. There might be more proxy wars. So I don't know. The jury is out. It's just a change of an era,
What do you think?
And I think from American point of view, they've been talking about this for the last 20 years, where they're saying we're too bogged down in Europe.
Yeah.
And they also said we're too bogged down in the Middle East and Europe. It's like both of them
Yeah.
don't really serve American interests.
No.
There's nothing in Europe that we need to be afraid of, according to that lobby of Americans. There's nothing in the Middle East. The only thing that is the
Russia.
threat is China.
Yeah.
And we need to, gear all our resources towards this threat and move away from Middle East and move away from Europe.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that.
Europe is also becoming more and more irrelevant.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. Very sad.
It's sad.
That's
it's
like-
very sad.
that's
They've got nothing anymore, really.
I know,
They've
but
got
that's the culture, baby. That's where my culture come from, man.
Yeah.
That's my culture.
But they also have missed out on the high tech race.
Germany's doing pretty good on that, bro, isn't it?
Not really, dude.
Renewables.
Not in the AI space.
Oh, AI, yeah, no. Can't make AI out of salami.
At this point, from Trump's perspective, a country like Taiwan, a small shitty country like
Well,
Taiwan,
they're the biggest chip producers in the
is
world.
more useful
Yeah.
than Germany. First of all, Germany is in a horrible economic condition themselves.
Really?
Yeah, dude. The war with Russia has screwed them over.
Because of the oil and resources.
The energy became more
yeah.
expensive,
Yeah.
and they lost their competitive edge. Their manufacturing is in an
Dude, don't you
abysmal
think
state.
this
They used to
globalized-
produce these cars that were most of their,
They're still great.
export income.
Mercedes-Benz are still the best.
Yeah, but they're not. They're in future. All of these cars are going to be computerized AI
yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
and Germany doesn't have that, so they'll have to obviously do tie-ups with U.S. or China if they dare.
I don't want to get all
I
macro
think
here,
this
but
is my prediction.
I think give me a prediction, but
This is going to be
globalized
a
worlds are
stupid
fucked.
and long-ended prediction, and I
Give it
don't
to me.
know.
Before you
when
say it
this is-
though, is my prediction. Let's all go back to farms and farming our own chickens. I don't like this hyper globalized world. It's too tumultuous,
I think that Western Europe is not going to side with the U.S. against a massive escalation against China, but Russia will.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can see that.
Which is a crazy thing to think about.
Well, yeah, I guess it's changed.
Because from this is the other thing that I think Americans don't realize. From Europe's perspective, they're like, well, if you leave Ukraine because you think it's not your war, it's a European issue, then how the hell is South China see a European issue?
And that is an absolutely fair
Fair
thing.
point, right? And China is going to court them too. Because what China is doing right now is seeing how Trump is abandoning large parts of the world. And they're probably setting their architecture to, create more dependency on China. And if Western Europe and US head towards a collisionary course, then you're going to see more dependence on China by Western Europe. But I think that Russia will hold the key. And if Russia sides with US, then game on. The chess pieces will have been set.
Jesus Christ, what a weird turn of events.
And I also think that this is going to be another insane thing. Again, I don't know if any of this is going to happen, obviously this is grand, but I also think that India will side with China and not the US.
No way.
Yeah.
What? No way. Where'd you get that?
The again, India
They're close
and
by.
Chinese
They're close by.
interests are exactly the same,
Yeah.
minus a small border skirmish along the Himalayas.
Kashmir.
Which is not Kashmir, parts of Kashmir and Ladakh. There's this other area. So Kashmir is mostly with Pakistan, but China's other border dispute with India is around that area, but more towards the eastern side, where Nepal and Bhutan and Tibet are.
Yep.
So because of this one border issue that the US, that India has with China can beat India in a war any day.
Yeah.
It would be very easy for them to do.
Right,
And they've
yeah.
done it before too. There was a
Right.
war in the 60s that, India got hammered.
Really?
So India knows that in order to keep their position, and in order to avoid China invading that part of India, they need to side with the US.
right.
But minus that, every other interest that India has is the same that China has. So what does China want? China wants US out of Asia. And it wants a So it looks to India and says, look, there's a debate about whether it should be me, it should be you, and how much we can fight over. But we both agree that the U.S. needs to get out because this is our area.
Yeah.
Asia is ours.
Yeah.
And India agrees with that.
Right.
India has constantly been advocating for a multipolar world. It wants to be in the Security Council, the United Nations Security Council. It wants to be on the table along with, U.S., Russia, China, and Western Europe. And from India's point of view, it's like, why the hell is a country like France part of it and not us? We're infinitely bigger than them. Our economy is almost as big as them. Their economy is stagnating, whereas our economy is growing.
Right.
Our army is bigger than them. Why do they get to call these shots? So China is looking for greater space in the international order, which India is looking for greater space, which China is willing to provide them, but America is not.
Yeah.
So what I say is that in future, if India and China can resolve this very small part, if they can come up to a border settlement over there, then there's no reason for India to side with the US. In fact, they're going to jump boats immediately. And we've had example of this. India has never been on the US's side. During the entire Cold War, they were more sympathetic towards Russia than they were to America.
Damn.
And then all the chips are going to fall on...
Wait, who was more sympathetic to Russia?
India.
Right.
India was sympathetic towards Russia and not the US.
Damn, it's like Game of Thrones. It's all changing.
And then what's going to happen is then you're going to have these Asian countries that could go either way. You have countries like Vietnam. You have countries like Japan. You have countries like Korea.
Japan will never side.
Maybe Japan won't.
No.
But I don't know if Vietnam will.
Because they were nuked by America.
I don't know if Thailand will. Like, there's a lot of
Where
these
else am I
countries.
going to go on holiday?
Yeah, there's a lot of these countries hold
about
key
Indonesia?
positions. Indonesia is going to be a massive player too. It could go either way.
Should I start doing like my gun training drills? Is that what you're saying? Should I start training?
Well, if it's come to us, we've already lost the war. Let's be real.
Why? Just purely by population?
If the Chinese have made it all the way across to Australian shores and are about to invade us, then what's happened before has been a hammering of our side.
What do you mean?
It means that the only way that can happen is if, let's say, there's a war in the South China Sea or in the Taiwan Strait, right?
Yeah.
Between US and China wins that war.
Oh, God.
Then the US will have to retreat from that area. And then it'll be open season on us because we would have 100% sided with the US. So
will they kill us all?
Well, it depends how badly US gets beat. And if there's a Trump-like character at that point that I'd want to believe, even now, that unlike Europe, we play a very critical role for this US grand chess piece, so they will come to our defense. I think
Trump is just completely doesn't give a shit about Australia.
It doesn't matter. He will.
Right.
If tomorrow Australia gets attacked by China, if there's an invasion, which is almost impossible because we're that far off, US will 100% come and defend us.
Right, yeah.
But in the case where they've just lost a war in Asia, and they've been beaten out of the area, and they go back to, across the ocean, because let's not forget, they have an entire hemisphere to themselves.
Yeah.
So then we're going to be vulnerable.
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy. That would be bizarre. This is some crazy hypotheticals, hey?
Yeah, these hypotheticals are going to get more and more airtime now that, the global chess order is being rearranged.
But if it was Russia and America versus China, come on.
Russia and America versus China. It depends where it is.
They have nukes that can circumnavigate the world 10 times over.
Yeah, but like in those sort of situations, by the time you've started using nukes,
it's all over.
It's all over. So what happens before the nukes?
Yeah.
I honestly think that if there was a war in Asia Pacific, China will win that war.
Yeah.
If Russia is on America's side and there's a war in the Korean Peninsula or Eurasian side, maybe actually America will have the edge over there if Russia's with them.
Right.
But when it comes to areas like, South China Sea, if there's a war in Vietnam or there's a war in Korean Peninsula, I think China will win. Just like, you know how Vietnam won against the US?
And it's actually crazy that they.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you fight
But if there's
someone,
a war in the Middle East or if there's a war
still
in
lose.
anywhere else, then America will win hands down. China
Not
does not
always.
have the
Oh,
capability
China, yeah.
to project power that far off.
Yeah,
But in their neighborhood, dude.
yeah, but if you're in their seas, like they're gonna probably kick your ass. Far out. It's really strange times. I tell you what, though, if they do get chummy with Russia, let's go visit. I want to see Russia.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd love to see the there's the
You know what's
Crimea
crazy?
is Crimea.
I
there?
almost went to Ukraine, not recently,
Whoa.
but in 2014. I was at uni,
Yeah.
and they used to do a semester overseas,
No.
and I was about to go to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'd filled out all the documents as well, and the only reason why I didn't go was just because there was this revolution, which we now know was an American orchestrated, colored revolution. But because
What is it,
Ukraine's
colored?
been
What does that mean, colored revolution?
well, there's like there was this time when, America was experimenting overthrowing these countries that they
yeah,
were against,
yeah.
and they would call it a different color, like the Orange Revolution. In Iran, they had the Green Revolution.
I didn't know that.
So, but anyways, I didn't go, but I almost went to Ukraine.
That's funny.
I was so close to go. I was going to teach English over there for like 6 months,
That'd be hilarious.
which is crazy because they would have been like, you speak English?
That's very funny. Yeah.
How many fronts can China not only defend but attack? Oh,
I don't know.
look, the problem with China is that it is still not a killer naval power yet. So not that many. If China has to use its navy, then it's going to be difficult. Which is why I think from Chinese perspective, they need another good 30 to 40 years before they can.
Right. 30 or 40 years.
Before they can become a naval power that's able to compete with US anywhere in the world.
Right.
All right, should we...
Well, I don't know what the time is.
Yeah, we're over time.
And so much of Twitch is just...
Is the AUKUS deal done now? I don't know what you thought the AUKUS deal was.
I reckon Trump would be like, it's a bad deal.
Now, did you know what Trump said about AUKUS deal?
What?
It's like, what's that?
Yeah, that's how tiny a player we are. What's
that? No, look, the American
God. That's
the American
brutal.
state machinery still feels that the AUKUS deal is very important, so you don't have to worry about that too much at this point.
Right.
All right, miss.
That's what I want to do.
Should we end the pod?
Yeah, but I don't know what's the time. I can't read the time because my computer's so screwed.
I think we started at 7:30. It's 8. It's 9 now, so an hour and a half.
Yeah, is that normal? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right. Well, I'm just. Can I just before we do just really quickly?
Become a patron. Before
Yeah,
we
do that. Someone's written we're screwed. China CCP was reminding us of how screwed we are last week with their ships off our coast doing those fire drills.
Yeah, dude. That's because they're prepping themselves for a Pacific War as well. Not that they'll win by any means. Again, just because they're doing that doesn't mean they're gonna win in Pacific. But they are prepping themselves for war simulations, and the reason why they're too close to us is because they believe that we're going to be their adversary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just someone
And
said,
if you think that Peter Dutton's gonna come and stop it, there's no Australian leader that can do anything about that now.
Europe's been contained and asleep, and it's about to wake up and be the third superpower. Fought a civil war and kicked the shit out of itself. Now it's coming back. Reckon Ali is completely wrong. Maybe.
Maybe we'll see.
More domestic question, Ali. Where does that put Australia in the Southeast Asia? Or we just answered that.
We're screwed. We're like in exactly the same position as Ukraine, which is that we really don't have an option. We would have to side with the US, and we will have to face the repercussions of the eventual defeat of the US. Like, we don't have free will here. Like, there's nothing that we can do. Like, there's this thing where, some people say, we could be the peacemakers between China and the US. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. You're screwed. You're going to have to choose a side, And when you've chosen that side, you're going to have to live with the repercussions of what if the other side wins. And the repercussions will be horrible. So best case scenario for us is that America wins if there is a war.
Jesus.
Or you decide to switch with China, which I wouldn't even recommend, honestly, at this point.
What's this crap Jordan's always talking about? Being like, China aren't a warmongering country. They don't want war. They're peaceful. It's like, that's obviously not true.
No, that is true.
Well, they're just defending themselves.
It's because countries, from the US's perspective, it's not whether a country is bad. It's whether the country has the capability of being bad. And that is enough for US to go to war against the country. So
Wait, what's that again?
So it doesn't matter. Let's say there's a great country, right? Let's say it has been Croatia. Let's say a country like Croatia, right?
It's tiny. It's 4 million people.
It has no, outwardly ambitions of occupying the world.
It's not
It
capable.
has nothing of that sort.
No.
But overnight, for some reason, Croatia...
That did happen. Serbia.
Croatia makes the best army in the world, right?
Yeah.
And the best navy in the world.
Yeah.
Croatia starts dominating AI tech, right? Assuming that, believe me, the day that happens, US will talk about how evil Croatia is, how it's a threat, and how it will gather every European country against Croatia.
Yeah.
Because for America, it doesn't matter whether you're good or bad. What matters is, do you have the capability of undermining American interests? And if you have the capability of undermining American interests, then they will fight. They will fight you. Yeah. America does not want a single peer competitor. It wants to be the only superpower.
Top dog.
And it will fire nukes if it needs to ensure that. So Jordan's saying that, China is not a hostile power. Yeah, if you look at Chinese history, China has been a superpower of Asia since, donkey years. Yeah. And it has never really demonstrated very far-reaching colonial ambitions. In fact, Japan has.
Yeah.
The good Japan
World War II.
has, but not just World War II. Every time Japan has consolidated itself, the first thing it wants to do is invade its neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's not just, the World War II Japan.
Yeah, right.
Every time, like those
they had wars
warlordism,
with China
as soon as the warlordism in
China.
They invaded Korea and they've invaded China several times.
Yeah.
So if one was to go at history, you should be afraid of Japan a lot more than China. But Japan doesn't have the capability to challenge the US, so they're great.
Yeah.
Similarly, India. India currently does not have the capability to challenge the US in any which way.
Does it have nuclear weapons? No.
It does have nuclear weapons, but America can obliterate them any moment.
Yeah.
So America doesn't think that India is bad, even though it has a right-wing fascist government that is constantly picking fights with its neighborhood. It's assassinating people in Canada. It's assassinating people in the US. It's assassinating people in Australians.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. The current Indian government.
How? What do you mean?
By literally hiring people to kill anyone that speaks against India in foreign countries.
In Australia?
In Australia, in New York,
Come on, dude.
in Canada.
I need to see some proof of this.
Look up Harshdeep Singh Nijjar.
Of course. Come again?
Harshdeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjr. Type in Nijjr.
You don't know how to say that word anymore. Wait, spell it.
Nijjar. Just Google him.
I am.
Yeah. It's unbelievable that you know about this, but everyone watching this knows who I'm talking about.
There's no internet. It's like barely. I'll have to. Maybe we'll do it off the. It's just loaded, dude. Maybe like Google's like it never happened.
Yeah, it's like Mishlav mustn't know about this.
Yeah, spell it again.
Nijjar.
I'll write death. It's loading. I think there's no. I think okay, but I'll look that up.
Anyways,
okay,
but like
so that's happening.
Yeah,
You're
that's happening.
That's happening. Okay, I didn't know that. That's insane.
Yeah.
They're obviously killing expats.
Yeah, expats. So like Australian, Americans, Canadians that are originally from India.
Right.
And they talk shit about India.
Really?
They literally kill them overseas.
That's insane.
But for America, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the capability to threaten America.
Yeah. Jesus.
The day they do have the capability to threaten America, even if they were the most, lovely...
He's in Canada.
Yeah, Canada. He got killed in Canada.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Was shot and killed in a parking lot of a Sikh temple in British Columbia. Really? Was he accused
Check
of-
who kills him.
India designated him a terrorist, and at the time of his death was seeking his arrest for alleged involvement in an attack on a Hindu priest. Is that true?
Well, I don't know. But I know that he was... Look, India...
He called for an independent Sikh state.
He calls for an independent Sikh state. But like this in a peaceful manner too. So
Right.
India said that he's a terrorist and he was involved in some plane hijacking, right? The Canadian government said that we don't have any evidence for it. And India was like, give him to us. He's a terrorist. And Canadian was like, well, we're not going to do that unless you give us evidence for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Indians just killed him. And that's not the only case.
Really?
The head of ASIO in Australia
Yeah.
was on record to say that Indian government has a very robust spy network in Australia, including contract killers that have posed threat to Australian nationals who advocated for an independent Sikh homeland.
Oh my goodness.
But anyways, I'm not trying to say that India is worse than other countries. There's other countries that do similar stuff.
Sure.
But I'm just trying to tell you that like Americans don't care about whether you're bad or good. They just care about whether you're capable of undermining their interests.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
it.
So crazy hypothetical. There's a war in the southeast or whatever, like South China Sea. China is not a invading, warmongering country, as you said. We're obviously aligned with America. America gets beaten. You know, they're a peace-loving country. So they leave us completely untouched, and the relationship doesn't change at all, and we keep exporting like lobsters to them. Will that happen?
You wish. You wish that
But
happened.
you said that they're not warlike. Which one
I
is
mean,
it? Which
look,
one is it?
Once they've conquered South China Sea and they've kicked out America, you believe me that they're going to want to take over the Pacific as well.
Shit.
They don't have a problem with us. Like, so they're not going to... There isn't like some deep-seated Chinese belief that we need to conquer Australia and, occupy the country. But they do believe that the maritime traffic that goes along us should be under their control. And it should be under their control based on the fact that they're powerful.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason.
Yeah.
So we don't... So if we were like a country like Vietnam or Thailand, we'd be screwed. Because China would overtly be saying that this part of your, let's say, exclusive economic zone in the ocean is actually our ancient, China. So China doesn't think that any part of Australia is theirs.
Yeah.
But they would also feel after winning that war that now they should be the complete bosses of this area.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what...
And so then we'll see. They'll bully us around. They'll try to tell us that, we're the new sheriffs in town and you have to, bow your head down to us.
Yeah.
And I think they would deserve to do that after kicking out the U.S. from South China Sea.
If they were able to do that. Damn.
Anyways,
dude,
but these are all hypotheticals. Hopefully we never get there.
It'd be crazy. Yeah, it's so nuts, man. Well, that's very scary, terrified. Yeah, we're
That's
screwed.
That's it.
Someone said Miss Love got him. Nice one.
He did get me.
I really
did
didn't.
get
I
me.
really didn't. Anyone would do the same.
All right, look, everyone, thank you.
It would be insane if China won the region. They were just like, here's what we're going to do. We won't just pay you what we were paying you before for your exports. We'll pay you more. We'll take a hit. See ya. And then just go back to China. It would never.
We're in a horrible position, dude. Damned if we do, damned if we don't.
Why? Why is the damned if you don't? I mean, why
Because
is the
if we don't side with the U.S.
Yeah.
against China,
Yeah.
the U.S. will bully the shit out of
True.
us. It will treat us worse than Zelensky.
True.
It will, start ridiculing us. It will start undermining us.
Yeah.
It will put sanctions
what
on
is
us.
this? It's so salty. So salty. I don't even like it. It's not very nice on your brain.
It will bar Asian countries like Japan and South Korea from buying shit from us, right?
Yeah.
So that's if we side with China. Or not, sorry, we don't side with China. We just refuse America's participation and we go like, sorry, we're out of this.
Yeah.
That's what we face. Okay, if we don't do that, and if we say, okay, US, we're with you, all of a sudden, you know, our trade sanctions will not exist. We will be able to trade with Japan. We won't be able to trade with China, which is going to hurt us, but we'll still be able to trade with other economies. But the disadvantage is if there is a war and the US loses in Asia, then we're screwed again.
Yeah, and like, so it's almost like siding with America is a net positive now for sure. Siding with China would be like a net negative now, but things can always change.
The greatest gamble would be that, let's say we side with China now, and then there's a war with the US, and China wins that war. Then we're going to have a very, very cushy existence.
Wait, if America wins the war?
If China wins the war and we had sided with China.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, we're screwed in every which way. Because the best case scenario, let's say even if the US wins the war in South China, right? And we sided with the US, we still lose our biggest trading partner, which was China.
Exactly.
Like most of our money came from China.
The irony
So
of
we're
that.
screwed even in that scenario.
Yeah, it's just not good.
Yeah, we're not in a good
I
position.
think Australia has been somehow the lucky country for so long, and I think that luck's going to run out.
And then on top of that, our economy is trash at the moment.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help
Because we're
either.
not investing.
Because we're just
And-
like making, you know, doubling housing prices every 2 years and,
So
you know,
insane.
taking out rocks from the earth
Yeah, and then
and
if,
hoping someone will buy them.
and then if the libs get in, they're going to subsidize the mining companies even more, so they have to pay even less tax. Housing will become more of a bubble and become more screwed, and there'll be less investment in any public sectors and education and TAFE and anything like that, so people get dumber, and society will just get as a net shit negative. Thanks for joining us.
Become a patron to access the upload episodes as well as, you know, some other goodies that you will get.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week. Pray for Jordan. Hopefully he's better by then and he's here along with us. But
Yeah.
until then,